the stakes are so high here that I have had no choice but to take a stand. A tiny tax on tea started the revolution, and now we get the living daylights tax out of us, and nobody seems to does not know revolution. I mean, you get taxed on what you own, you get taxed on what you buy, and you get taxed on what you own. And it's like, okay, this is taxes, 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 and and then what does it get spent on? A bunch of the stuff it gets spent on you don't even agree with. There's clearly a strong push for censorship under the guise of fighting disinformation, but really disinformation is a propaganda word. It's not well, who's going to decide what's disinformation? The government? That's crazy, So that's yeah. So I think we'll see. This is like this is why we have this petition in support of freedom of speech and right to bear arms. Is that it's under siege. It's being attacked because what I see happening is that the Dem administration is bringing in vast numbers of illegals deliberately into swing states. The numbers, if you say like over the past 3.5 years, I think it's like there's like a 500% increase in illegals in swing states. What a coincidence! Now, when you look at margins of victory that may be 10, 20,000 votes, and then you bring in 200,000 illegals and you legalize them, which is exactly what the sort of Kamala puppet regime will do over the next 4 years. Then you won't have any swing states. Every state will go blue, and then we don't have a democracy. We will be a single-party state. Frankly, I'd be happy if it was just that citizens voted. I'd call that a win. If we can just make sure that only legal citizens can vote, which is how it's supposed to be, I'd say that would be quite a victory compared to where we are right now. A friend of mine went to vote in Palo Alto in California because he was like, is this real or not? And he like tried to show his ID, and it was like presenting a cross to a vampire. Like they're like, no, put the ID away. Like they literally they weren't allowed to look at his ID even if he wanted to show it to them. That is the extent of the madness. This is a real thing in California right now. And if the Dems win nationally, they'll do it nationwide. Obviously, that's what's going to happen. And there will be no democracy. Kamala is really she's just a puppet, frankly. I mean, if the teleprompter breaks, doesn't know what to say. So I just call it the machine, the kind of big government machine, essentially. And you sort of have a face on the big government machine, and when the Biden puppet was not working out, they sort of got a new puppet. But it's still the same machine, obviously, and it's extremely undemocratic what was done. It's bizarre and hypocritical to claim that Trump is somehow a danger to democracy when what happened with Biden being removed as the candidate was incredibly undemocratic. We need to have empathy that is deep, not shallow. Shallow empathy is caring about criminals, but deep empathy is caring about the victims of the criminals. And so why do we have repeat violent offenders released on the streets, often with no bail? It's crazy. And they prey upon people, innocent people, and then our streets are not safe. And how can America be the greatest country in the world and we don't even have safe streets? What I see is that there's like a tremendous amount of propaganda being pushed on kids in schools. I think it's just messing with kids' heads, I mean, anyone that goes through puberty, it's going to be an identity crisis, going through puberty, it's normal kind of to have an identity crisis, really. And I think we should tell kids like, yeah, if you're confused, that's okay. It's like it's coming of age, We shouldn't like steer them in a particular direction or convince them of something that they're not. It's okay to go through an identity crisis. Everyone does. But I think what I see in schools is that they tend to send kids down paths that they wouldn't actually go down because they're being pushed down that way by the teachers, and by the propaganda that's pushed in the schools. So I'm like really feeling the pain of the overregulation. SpaceX had to do the study to see if Starship would hit a shark. And I'm like, it's a big ocean, There's a lot of sharks. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And said, well, you have to, this is, I think, from National Marine Fisheries, one of the, NIMF it's called. They were like, well, you have to do the study on whether you can hit a shark. We're like, what? And then we said, okay, fine, we'll do the analysis. And then, well, can you give us the shark data? They're like, no, we can't give you the shark data. We're like, okay, well, then we're in a bit of a quandary. How do we solve this this shark probability issue? And they said, well, we could give it to our Western division, but we don't trust them. And I'm like, am I in a comedy sketch here? And they're worried about the shark density data, like the people who hunt sharks for shark fins somehow getting their hands on this the shark data. And so eventually, I think we got the data, and we could run the analysis to say like, yeah, the sharks are going to be fine. But they wouldn't let us proceed with launch until we did this crazy shark data, and then we thought, okay, now we're done. And they said, but what about whales? I'm like, when you look at a picture of the Pacific, what percentage of the surface area of the Pacific do you see as whale? Because I look at a picture, I don't see any. It's like you can't. Where's a whale? And honestly, if the ship did hit a whale, it's like, honestly, that whale had it coming, because it's like the odds are so low. It's like Final Destination, the whale edition. It's like fate had it in for that whale, And so we had to do the whale analysis. And it's like, okay, yeah, the whales will be fine too, It goes on. And then there's like, well, what if the rocket goes underwater, then explodes, and then the whales have hearing damage? Like, this is real. This is actually, and we're like, look, if we could make a rocket go underwater and be a submarine, that would be like a feat of physics we could not accomplish, okay? This is not how it works. So anyway, just one like crazy thing after another. There are actually a huge number of drugs that are stuck in approval at the FDA that can help people. And they're just stuck in bureaucratic molasses. A good friend of mine was telling me a story that fortunately had a happy ending, where his mom was diagnosed with brain cancer. And she, the oncologist said, there's no chance, it's got maybe 4 or 5 months to live. But my friend is a very smart, determined person, and he searched, for, he talked to every smart person he knew, and he found someone who said, yeah, actually, there's a drug that's in trials that you take this pill, and it actually makes the brain cancer go away. Literally, you just take a pill. He's like, what? And I think it's called like Wellirig or something, FYI. This drug called Wellirig that solves brain cancer. Maybe more people should know about this. And I think it's in trials at Harvard or something. And it cured his mom. And so that just happened. I think it was like this year. But if we could just be faster about getting, amazing drugs through the system, a lot more people would be alive. If the margin of victory is high enough, then I think it can exceed any sort of cheating that may take place. So we got to aim for just a massive margin. That's the key. It's really aim for a margin that it is impossible to have any shenanigans. But on the X platform, I certainly would invite people to, if there's any voting issues, if people think there's a fraud, then post the images, post the videos, post the evidence, and let's shine a bright light on. And the brighter the light, the harder it will be to cheat. We are going to be awarding $1 million to randomly to people who have signed the petition every day from now until the election. One of the challenges we're having is like, well, how do we get people to know about this petition? Because the legacy media won't report on it. Not everyone's on X. So I figure, how do we get people to know about it? Well, this news, I think, is going to really fly. So tonight's person is John Dreyer. Yeah. John had no idea. So anyway, you're welcome. Yeah. So the only thing we ask for the $1 million is that you be a spokesperson for the petition, and that's it, really. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So wait, do you want to say anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Elon. This is great. I'm really ecstatic. I want to congratulate you on your rocket catch last week. Big curveball.
I think this is kind of fun, it seems like a good use of money.
Is this legal?
I think there are real questions with how he is spending money in this race, how the dark money is flowing, not just into Pennsylvania, but apparently now into the pockets of Pennsylvanians. That is deeply concerning. Look, Musk obviously has a right to be able to express his views. He's made it very, very clear that he supports Donald Trump. I don't, obviously we have a difference of opinion. I don't deny him that right. But when you start flowing this kind of money into politics, I think it raises serious questions that folks may want to take a look at.